Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Unit Lost. I am Stylosa, and this is my review of Homeworld Deserts of Kharak, which is, of course, the new Homeworld prequel game, which has been made by the guys at Blackbird Interactive. And some of these guys were involved in the production of the original Homeworld games. Now, Gearbox picked up the IP to Homeworld over a year ago it was, when they re-released the remastered versions of Homeworld and Homeworld 2, which were pretty good. You know, they weren't the best. They had some issues, but they've kind of ironed those issues out, and those games are very good. They're very playable, and they've sort of brought Homeworld into the modern era. This, however, is a game built upon another game called, well, I say built upon, it's still the same game, but initially it was called Hardware Shipbreakers, because the guys at Blackbird Interactive did not have the license to Homeworld, so they had to call it something different, but it very much looked like a Homeworld game. Anyway, Gearbox picked them up, published the game, and now we're ended with a game which is called Homeworld Deserts of Kharak, which I presume is what they wanted to call it all along, because it's a prequel to the events in Homeworld and Homeworld 2 and Homeworld Cataclysm, where you're still on Kharak and you're still trying to find out what your people are all about. You're trying to discover your past and your history and all of that stuff. And I can tell you right now, the single player campaign is pretty damn good. Like, pretty damn good. Right up there on my list of things I wanted from this game is I wanted a really great single player campaign that would draw me in, a really immersive single player campaign which is going to make me feel part of the game. And Homeworld's always been great about giving you this feeling of you're the last hope. The odds are essentially insurmountable, but somehow you've got to press on. Somehow you have to win the day. And this game does that again. It is a Homeworld game. The biggest fear a lot of people have had with Homeworld Deserts of Kharak is they don't actually know if it's a Homeworld game. It's not in space for a start, so how the hell can this be a Homeworld game? Well, they've been very clever, you see. So the aesthetic, the audio, and by the way, the audio is amazing. The sound design, so things like the unit feedback, which I'm just going to play, well, you can hear in the background, but I'm just going to shut up and ram the volume up so you can hear a little bit of an exchange between units. Just listen to this.
LAB down. Armored vehicle is taking fire. Fire. Armor confirmed. Alert. Strike fighter lost. Strike fighter taking hostile fire. Keep moving. Return fire. Alert. Missile battery destroyed. Ready. Armored vehicle has been destroyed. Order launch. Target set. Good copy. Alert. Light attack vehicle destroyed. Strike craft taking effective fire. Receiving.
Artillery cruiser fabrication online.
Ready.
That gives me chills. That really gives me chills. I like all of this static, all like the communication over the static, the orders that are being fed back or fed back, and all of that stuff, and the way units interact as they detect units, as they destroy units, as they come under attack, as they themselves get destroyed. RTS games, little things like that, when they're done well, make games feel absolutely, at least to me, feel great. And the soundtrack or the score, it's just this futuristic, almost Indian style music. It's Homeworld. It is just Homeworld music, and it sounds absolutely awesome. So the way the game plays, and the way that they very cleverly brought the whole, we work on the 3D plane, so you've got the X and the Y axis with Homeworld, like you can move your ships up and down. You're in space, right? It's not just going to be on a 2D plane. This isn't on a 2D plane as such. What you've got is this very clever mechanic of line of sight blocking and getting an advantage, so a damage boost when you're on higher ground than the enemy. Now, because it's a desert, there's sand dunes everywhere, isn't there? So this means you can use this to your advantage. So when combat breaks out, if you move onto the top of sand dunes, you get a bonus to your attack, and you do more damage, and you will beat units on the low ground. And then your units level up and they become much better through veterancy. So you don't want them to die, so they become even better than the enemy's units they're sending at you. So you become powerful in that way. But then units have got very clever abilities. The Coalition Assault Vehicle can fire smoke. In fact, quite a few of their units can do this. So they can fire a smoke grenade out, which blocks line of sight, which now means they cannot fire at the target, or they cannot be fired at themselves from the direction of wherever the smoke has gone. That's great, because this means you've got like crazy hit and run tactics. Now, they're not just confined to the Coalition forces, because the Galcian forces, they're also ideal for hit and run. Their vehicles hover. They're not tracked. They've kind of got better technology, because the way the story goes is the Galcian have had access to all of the ancient ships that have crashed throughout Kharak. I'm not going to spoil why they're there, but everybody knows there's ancient ships on Kharak, right? Because of the way Homeworld goes, you know, with the hyperspace core discovery and all that stuff. So yeah, there's ancient ships, but the Galcians have had access to them for a while, so they've been developing technology based off what they've been finding. So they've got like fancy hover technology, and the Coalition don't have that. So they've got tracked vehicles, which are much slower. So the Galcian ships are really quicker. So they can run over the top of dunes, attack you really quick, and then back off and run away. Hit and run is a really powerful thing in this game. So you also have air units as well. You've got interceptors, you've got bombers, and then you've got gunships. Now, all three of these do different things. So the strike craft, or the interceptors, what they do is they attack ground targets, and they do, let's say, focus damage. They do quite a lot of damage. Air in this game is quite powerful, but it's also easy to deal with if you've got anti-air emplacements. Whether that's through upgrades on units or just straight up anti-air units you've got on the ground, or anti-air turrets, or whatever you've got going on. But the strike craft, they do focus damage, okay? So they're very good for surgical strikes. The bomber does massive damage in a fairly decent area. It's not like an insanely big area, but it's still really good. I mean, if a bomber comes into a formation of your units and hits you, it's going to take them out. You know, it almost kills every single unit with one hit, every ground unit, apart from like larger cruisers and stuff. But any kind of assault vehicle, or I guess corvettes you could compare them to, or fighters, which are, again, I'm just loosely comparing this to the Homeworld unit classifications, but the fighters would be the like the little skirmishers, the dune crawler skirmisher things. They would get destroyed really quick, well, like with one hit. And then you've got gunships. Now gunships are interesting because they're like a what is it called? You know, I can't remember what it's bloody called. It's that American gunship which flies around and it's got cannons on it and it fires. I've got Spectre in my head, but I know that's wrong. Whatever that is, Battlefield 3 I think has it, Battlefield 4 possibly has it, where it flies around the map and it just shells the targets. That's what a gunship's like. It's really good at like dominating ground units, but obviously air will take it out. But if you catch a lot of units out of place with no AA, this thing can absolutely destroy them, because it doesn't have to come back to the base to reload, I don't think. It can just carry on and keep pounding away. But the game's about using all of these assets together. It truly is like a combined arms game. You've got your carrier, which you can upgrade to fire cruise missiles, which is like the super weapon. Very powerful against large groups of units and stuff. But the carrier itself is not this insane war vehicle, although it kind of can be, because it's got this power distribution system which allows you to distribute the power between the different systems on the carrier. So you can increase the weapons on the carrier, you can increase its defense ability, its sensor range, the rate it repairs itself, and all stuff like that. But it all depends on power. Now, you have to upgrade the carriers to get access to more power, but you can't just blast all the power you like, because it will overheat your power. And that's bad for the carrier, because it'll start to take damage on all of its different modules, which you don't want. Now, going throughout the single-player campaign, it gets progressively warmer. Each map gets progressively warmer because you're heading towards the centre of the desert, and, you know, to find whatever the hell you're going to find. And although we probably already know what you're going to find, but it gets hotter and hotter, so the management of the carrier becomes a little bit different. There are ways of cooling the carrier down using artifacts and stuff, but it still is like another little mini game. So what you can do is, if all of your forces are out on the map attacking the enemy, but the enemy sends a force around to attack your carrier, maybe to take out your supply operation, you can then ramp all the power into the weapons on the carrier, and the carrier can deal with it. Or just rolling back a little bit, if we look at the way the combined arms works in this game. So you've got air and you've got ground. Now, the ground units are rapid attack light units, which are great for harassment, but they're also really good for taking out units like certain types of cruisers which are not designed to kill ground units. So maybe resource collection cruisers, or like production cruisers, very good for taking them out. But then you've got a Railgun Class. Now, the Railgun Class is extremely powerful against basically everything if it's at range. However, because of the way the game is done and the way the maps are made, it's very easy to block line of sight on these. And if you were to attack a position, say we're the Coalition, so we've got a lot of smoke grenades we can fire from our vehicles, and we want to attack a Galcian position, well, what we can do is fire our smoke grenades on top of their railguns to block their line of sight. So no longer they just can't fire, they can't see us. We can sweep in, start taking out their other units. They've got to move their railguns around, at which point we could send our fast attack into their railguns. At this time, we could also be deploying our interceptors, bombers, and gunships onto that area as well. It's great. It's very frantic. And I said earlier on, the game gives me chills. I get goosebumps when I listen to when I'm just playing the game. I feel like I'm in charge. I am a commander and I have this fleet, and I really need to make decisions based off, you know, what's best for the fleet, ways to take the technology of the carrier at the time, and all of this stuff. What to engage, where I should engage, where should I expand. Which, going back to the expansion thing, the game was originally called Shipbreakers, and the reason for that is you're sort of finding technology on all these ships, these ancient ships which have crashed throughout Kharak, and your scavengers can deploy explosives. So you find like chunks of ancient ship. Okay, you go up to these with your resource collectors, fire satchel charges or what are they called? Well, they're demolition charges, basically. Like, let's just say TNT, whatever. You fire these at them, and then you detonate them, and they explode, and all of the rubble comes out of, well, not the rubble, like the scrap and whatever comes out, and then you can collect that, and that's the way the resources are done in the game. Now, throughout the single-player campaign, you don't really get access to much resources in. It's a lot about using what you have and using it effectively. You can't just go in like gung-ho, because if you take massive losses, it's going to be hard to replace that. Multiplayer is a bit different because you've got more resources, which I guess is for balance, and obviously the fact that you don't start off with a fleet, which in the single player, you know, this is Homeworld, so your fleet carries on. Which, by the way, you do have the option to take a standardized fleet into a mission. Say if you think, oh god, I've done pretty bad here, I've lost a lot of my ships, you can just take the standard fleet template to start that mission off, which is kind of nice. But yeah, what we're looking at here, guys, is a game which is very... It's taken me by surprise because I really didn't expect much from it. I thought we were going to be looking at a game where this isn't really going to work. Homeworld on the ground, well, what's going on there? That's a bit weird. I mean, I'd take Homeworld 3 if that could be a thing in space. That'd be awesome. I mean, I hope this does well, and then that promotes them to actually make Homeworld 3, because I'd really like to see that. This is really great, though. It's not all amazing, though. There are some negatives, at least negatives that I've found in the press or PR or whatever the hell version you want to call this. This is not the release version of the game, although you would assume it's very close to the release version of the game because it's the one that they've given to people to review. So it wouldn't be like an older version with problems, would it? At least you wouldn't think that. Performance is not great. Now, on Skirmish Maps, which if you watch the 2 videos I've put out on the different types of skirmishes, or multiplayer maps, I guess, eventually when there are people to play multiplayer. Of course, I've not had a chance to do that because I don't... Well, there's nobody to play because it's pre-release version. Performance in that regard is very good. Yeah, I mean, I was getting like 100 FPS pretty much constantly, and that was fine. However, single player is where we start to take some strange problems, and the FPS doesn't seem to care about what graphics settings you use. So I've got a 780. GTX 780 GPU, and I was playing the game on Ultra and it was fine, and then it started to become not fine as let's say more and more units started to appear. My CPU was under about 30% load during the entire play sessions that I've had with the game, so it's not a CPU issue. I don't really know what it is. My RAM was not full, so I guess it's just a bug with the game. But what happens is the FPS will just randomly drop. So you could be sitting there, 80 FPS, it's all fine. Suddenly it drops to 20 FPS, and then it goes back to 80, and it's... Or it could drop to 15, or maybe it drops to 30 or 32. It's weird. This is not with VSync on, because VSync was off, and that is annoying, and it can kind of piss you off a bit. But the game is so good that I kind of just forgot about that, which is bad of me to say, because if it's got performance issues, then, you know, we need to talk about that. But in multiplayer and skirmish, it's fine. It's totally fine. So it must be something which is going on with the campaign. I'm not sure why it would be like that, because I've got to say, I've had some fairly big skirmish games with a lot of units, and that seems okay compared to what the single player was sort of doing. However, I guess I'll best leave this with just a little bit more on the single player, because I know when I started this video, I did speak about, I think if you are a fan of Homeworld and you were skeptical about this game, you probably won't be skeptical about it now based off this review. You've seen another review content that'll be out there on YouTube. For me, the biggest thing I was looking for was a great single player campaign, because it's been so long since I played an RTS game with a great single player campaign. There's been RTS games that have come out recently and they've had decent multiplayer, but the single player has just been non-existent. And I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoy a great single player story in an RTS game. I really enjoy it. The way that you escalate your technology, your forces, and things get more desperate and you move on and the enemy gets harder and harder and eventually you win. It's great. I mean, hell, look at my channel. It's called Unit Lost. Why do you think it's called Unit Lost? Because that's the sound effect from Command & Conquer when a unit dies. I absolutely love Command & Conquer, apart from Command & Conquer 4. That was terrible. But great single player campaigns, that's what I want. And this game It gives you that. It's worth it for the single-player campaign alone. I hope the performance issues get sorted out, because I'm going to just say that maybe that's something to do with the version I've got, or I hope that's the case. Because, you know, with me running the 780 GTX, that's not low-end. I know it's not high-end, but hey, let's be honest about the game. It's not pushing high-end graphics, is it? It looks nice for what it is, but it's not totally ridiculous. And actually, just touching on that before I finish the video, it's a physics-based system as well. So vehicles actually drive around the sand dunes, and it looks really nice when you watch it happen. They don't stand static in front of each other and just trade blows. They're driving in and out. They're like ducking and diving. They're boosting up sand dunes. It's crazy. It's really good. And when units get destroyed, they like blast across the map, and it looks awesome. When interceptors or aircraft get shot down as well, they break up in the air and then accelerate and smash into the floor, and it looks really nice. It's a really nice game, and it's a Homeworld game. Anybody who is a fan of Homeworld will immediately recognise how to play this game straight away, down to the way the UI works, the scanners work, and everything. Unit icon classifications. I mean, everybody will know that I think it's a parallelogram. The square that's slightly, I guess, diagonal. I don't know. That's a really shit way of describing it. But everybody knows that that's for destroyer class vessels. In Homeworld, and that's what you get on your battle cruisers, and you know, everyone knows that what the other symbols mean. So like triangles generally interceptor, I believe, and that's sort of your fast moving ground unit. So you'll know, you will be right at home with this game. And I think it's really good. I think it is really good, guys. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below, because I've tried to give you a complete overview of my experience with this game, and I think it's going to be pretty interesting to play multiplayer, and I can't wait to play it multiplayer. I think the line of sight well, not issues, but the way it's got this line of sight system is awesome. It adds so many different types of tactics into the game. It's crazy. The audio and sound design is next level. It's really good. The graphics are okay. The performance is a bit questionable in single player, but yeah, it is a Homeworld game. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been Silosa. If you want to talk to me over Twitter, then follow me on Twitter, which is @UnitLostGaming, and I'll reply to your nice comments. You know, don't send me nasty comments. It's not like you'd ever do that, right, guys? Or comment on the video below, and like the video if you did enjoy the video. And I'll catch you next time, people. Toodaloo.